Welcome to Discovery and welcome to today's Innovation Partners presentations. It's my pleasure to introduce you to several of our partners engaged in the innovation space right here in Ontario. Each one is either a department or agency of the province or federal government or has received funding from the government. Together they offer innovators and entrepreneurs a variety of programs, opportunities, and advice to help them develop their research and businesses. We'll begin our session today with 4 presentations from the Ministry of Economic Development and Growth and the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science. Our first joint presentation is from Nick Bunsick, a Senior Policy Advisor with the Scale-Up Services Branch, who will speak to us about the Low Carbon Innovation Fund. Nick will be followed by Robert T. May, who is also a Senior Policy Advisor with the Scale-Up Services Branch, who will speak to Global Market Acceleration Fund. If you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask. Please welcome Nick and Robert.
Good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me okay? All right. Well, we have a lot of information to cover with the session, so if I'm not speaking clearly, or if I'm speaking too quickly, or if I'm not covering the concepts adequately, you can talk to me afterwards. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Brief session outline: Low Carbon Innovation Fund, also known as LCIF. We'll do a program overview, talk about project types and funding levels, talk about technology readiness levels, commercialization readiness levels. A little bit about the evaluation and some upcoming and current clean tech programming. Rob will be talking about the Global Market Acceleration Fund, also known as GMAF, providing a fund overview, talking about eligibility requirements, eligible and ineligible costs, and technology and commercialization readiness levels. So why the Low Carbon Innovation Fund? Well, we know that there is a critical gap in access to capital for technology companies that are a certain level in their development, in their pre-commercial phase. And we hear this all the time in our clean technology consultations. It's pretty well known. And for clean technology, there is a long runway to actually getting technologies up and into the market, much longer than with a company that comes out of ICT, for example. So really, Low Carbon Innovation Fund really fills a critical gap in access to capital. It's created to support proof of concept prototyping and pilot demonstration projects, and they must reduce greenhouse gases, and that's a key component of the program. It's funded through cap and trade proceeds, and by law, all the money that's collected through cap and trade proceeds needs to be reinvested into programs and initiatives that are going to reduce greenhouse gases in Ontario to help us meet our various targets. It's part of Ontario's Climate Change Action Plan and Ontario's Clean Tech Strategy. Highlights from 2017-18 include a $29 million allocation and 2 streams offered. So we have the technology demonstration stream and we have the technology validation stream. So the technology demonstration stream supports projects that are 3 types of projects. So firstly, there's a completely new technology. A second would be technology that's used in another industry, and it's technology translation into a different application. So, for example, using geothermal heating from the building industry and using it to translating to the agricultural sector to dry grain. So you're supplanting the use of natural gas, reducing greenhouse gases. Or it could be a significant improvement or a step change in existing technology. So, for example, you've developed this brand new solar technology based on existing technology, except this new technology is 40% more cost efficient, 40% more output. So it's a significant step change above the incumbent technology. And so for this stream, we're offering $2 million per project, up to $2 million, with 50/50 matching requirement for funding. The validation stream looks at technologies that are earlier stage, and it's focusing on proof of concept and prototyping. So very early stage, potentially game-changing technologies. This stream is a lot more generous, offering up to $5 million per project, with 75% for companies being covered by the province, and up to 95% for being covered by the province or academic institutions. This actually had an academic component as well. So I can't really get too deep into technology readiness levels here because of time, but essentially we were targeting a technology readiness level of 3 and 4 for validation, and 5, 6, and 7 for demonstration. Technology readiness level is 1 being, you have a basic idea, and 9 being, this technology is deployed and in the marketplace and widely available. So the focus, it's all pre-commercial. Both validation and demonstration are pre-commercial. So here we have a commercialization readiness level, which essentially, a validation we are targeting startup, so 1 and 2. In demonstration, companies had they were operational up into having, maybe a niche market and seeking strategic partners. A little bit about the evaluation process. We took a real deep dive into the companies, into the projects with a 360-degree evaluation, looking at mainly the project, the technology, marketing, commercialization, and outcomes. So for example, we'd be looking at project plans, the need for the project. We'd be looking for technology. We'd be looking at its potential to reduce greenhouse gases, technology differentiation, how unique was the technology. For market and commercialization, we might be looking at the market potential for a technology, the capacity for commercialization for the company, and for outcomes, we'd be looking at GHGs, economic, environmental, and social benefits. Unfortunately, I can't tell you at this time whether we're going to have another round for 2018-19. It's all pending funding approval, because the initiative is funded by cap and trade proceeds, and we don't really know what's available until we know. So I would encourage you to monitor the website if you're looking to apply. Keep monitoring the Low Carbon Innovation Fund website. However, I would like to bring to your attention that we do have some clean tech programming through the Bloom Center for Sustainability. It's a clean technology demonstration program up to $150,000, a co-applicant process, and the deadline for submitting applications is May 31st. So you have a month to get your applications in. You can find more about that program on the Bloom website. So, okay, at this time, I'd like to invite my colleague Rob Tomei up, say a few words about GMAF, and we'll be happy to entertain your questions afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nick. Good afternoon. I'm Robert Tomei, Senior Policy Advisor with the Commercialization Scale-Ups, Ministry of Research, Innovation, Science, Economic Development. I almost said trade there for a second. Economic Development and Growth. I'm going to talk to you about a program that's in the field right now called the Global Market Acceleration Fund. We joke sometimes that global really means Ontario, or you start in Ontario and then you move up. So the GMAF, or Global Market Acceleration Fund, is meant to help Ontario-based companies mitigate the risk of building new or expanding existing production and delivery of a proven GHG-reducing clean technology by assisting with the costs associated with scaling up. What that means is you've got a company, you're involved somehow in the clean tech sector, and you need to scale up your company, your product. The funds available is a grant, which is from $2 to $5 million per project, and it's available only to Ontario-based companies. And preference through the application process will be the technologies that have the potential, or the most potential, to reduce greenhouse gases and emissions in Ontario. And as Nick mentioned, this is very important because the funding for GMAF is coming from the greenhouse gas reduction account from our friends at MOECC, and by legislation that those GHGs must be reduced in Ontario. But since we are the Economic Development Ministry, we are looking to scale up existing companies and those that have the most potential. And you'll see a little bit later on with the CRL and TRLs, we're sort of a step ahead or further than LSIF. But we are about increasing the competitiveness of Ontario-based firms. Again, to help companies with clean technology. Production, sales, distribution, marketing is all important aspects of having a good product and getting it out there in the marketplace. So now I just want to go over briefly some of the eligibility requirements for GMAF. So this project must have the potential to assist us, Ontario, in meeting our GHG emission goals, and this is all part of the Ontario Climate Change Action Plan. The company must be incorporated here in Ontario with a permanent establishment, and the project must be carried out here in Ontario. We expect all prospective projects to follow all safety and regulatory or have the approvals in place and be able to provide that proof to the province. The funding or the project is to be completed within 2 years or less. And again, it's between $2 and $5 million per project. That's the provincial funding. The company is looking to provide at least 50% of the eligible project costs from sources other than the province. And we have stacking limits of up to 66%. So if you're looking at incorporating or using federal funds, that limit is 66%. So if you're going to be building, creating, distributing, selling these products, I certainly hope you have the right to do that in Ontario, and that is a prerequisite of the program as well. And another little sort of financial stipulation is that if you've received funding within the past 3 years for a substantially similar project, you won't be eligible. So Nick talked about TRLs and CRLs. So for GMAF, if you recall, LSIF had TRLs up to 7. So we're turning it up to levels 8 and 9. So as it says, the technology has to be completed and qualified through tests and set demonstrations. So this is not about demonstration projects or pilot projects. It's about projects or products and processes that are in the market and have been proven. And they've been deployed in the marketplace. But obviously, if you have a good product, in some cases you're going to need help scaling up the production and sale of that product. So minimum 8 or 9. And CRLs. And if you're not familiar with CRLs and TRLs, we can talk to you after about what this means and how it's important. There is a bit of overlap between LSIF and GMAF in the CRLs, but if you look at the table, if your product or process is at number 4 or higher, up to 9, then you do qualify for the Global Market Acceleration Fund. And we can talk a bit more later about these types of readiness levels. Now we're going to talk about something really exciting, eligible costs. So certain costs are integral to implementing this type of, or the scale-up project, and it may be eligible for funding. So after careful study and discussion, the eligible costs were determined to include any equipment retrofit or purchase or installation of that equipment, the raw materials and supplies required to support the scale-up. Engineering is very important to expanding and building. That is covered as an eligible cost. And we also, as I previously mentioned, determined that the sales and marketing of your product is key to finding new markets, and that is an eligible cost for GMAF, as is the direct labor cost for personnel involved in the project, where they're building or expanding that production line. You're going to need people, building, help selling, assembling. So there is a number of costs, as you know, associated with keeping qualified staff. Those costs are also eligible. And for the accountants, the performance monitoring, third-party validation, and evaluation costs are also covered under GMAF. But with eligibility comes ineligible costs. So some of these costs may be covered by other programs, but under GMAF, we are not including the cost of land. If you're looking to purchase a piece of property and expand your business, unfortunately, the land costs are not eligible. We're not going to pay for the preparation of your business case or fees or any third-party government relations consulting services. And this is pretty standard across a lot of projects from our ministry and others. Vehicles and off-site equipment. So don't go buy a new SUV right away. And travel, meals, and hospitality are also ineligible. General working capital requirements not directly attributable to the project, including debt service costs, federal or provincial income taxes, surtaxes, or special expenses, are also ineligible. Tax credits are part of that. A lot of you may have taken advantage of in the past, but that's not something that we're going to be looking at as counting towards a contribution. If you're a public company or private company, you have shareholders, that remuneration will not be covered under costs. And the last item, costs incurred or reimbursed by a third party or the government. I may have been a bit quick to go through some of these bullet points. It doesn't talk about or cover all of the points around GMAF as we consider to be or will be a successful project. But that's all I have for now, but I think we'll take some questions.
Hi. So the question is, what is the relative acceptance rate for the programs? Really, it depends on the portfolio of applications that we get. So it's hard to answer that question. It's unfortunately.
For the Global Market Acceleration Fund, I guess your chances of success depend on the type of product or process that you are proposing. Don't forget, LSIF, like GMAF, has a certain budget. You know, as I mentioned, the budget is coming from the greenhouse gas reduction account. So once these programs go live or become available, it's best to get in there as soon as possible and go through either an eligibility assessment or a business case as soon as possible. And unfortunately, we do preface all of our, or most of our programs with, you know, upon approval of funding. So speaking for GMAF, the success rate of moving on through eligibility to business case is quite good. So, but we, if you're serious about it, we're serious about looking at your business case, and there's a high chance of success. But again, funding has to be there.
Actually, the guys will be at the back of the room if you have any follow-up questions or want to exchange some business cards. It'll be a great opportunity, but we'll keep things moving. Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is from Arif Mahmood of the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science and the Ministry of Economic Development and Growth. Arif is a senior policy advisor who will speak to us about the ministry's voucher program. If you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask them. Welcome, Arif.
Thank you very much. I'm joined by my colleague Annette today. Annette, do you want to start off the presentation?
Sure. So thank you everyone for joining us. Do we have the clicker? Right here. Awesome. Okay. There we go. So my name is Annette, and this is Arif, and we'll be talking to you about the Ontario Scale-Up Vouchers program. So as we know, business expansion is critical to the long-term success of companies, and that's why measures have been taken to ensure that these companies can scale up effectively. And so this is the concept behind this program, which is a government-funded initiative that connects high-growth technology businesses to mentors and project-oriented vouchers to reduce the cost of business expansion. This injection of expertise and capital helps innovation-intensive small and medium-sized enterprises increase their global revenues. So the Ontario Scale-Up Vouchers program is a 4-year, $32.4 million initiative funded by the Ministry of Economic Development and Growth and the Ministries of Research, Innovation and Science, and delivered through Mars Discovery District, Communitech, and Invest Ottawa. OSVP was created to help Ontario innovation and technology-based companies to really become competitive on the global scale. This program provides access to capital and a network of growth coaches with proven expertise in areas including talent management, intellectual property protection, and innovation. So what kind of companies can apply? Those with $5 to $25 million in revenue or $10 million in private investment that operate in key sectors such as information and communications technology, advanced materials and manufacturing, life sciences or clean technology, and that have 20% annual growth in either revenue, sales, or employment. Vouchers of up to $1 million are awarded after a highly competitive assessment process, which is based on different sectors such as capital and IP strategy, but mainly a growth plan which shows the capacity for a global scale-up. Vouchers match investments that a firm makes in a designated scale-up project on a one-to-one basis. So the program operates on a continuous intake model with monthly intake committee meetings. The firm works with growth coaches to develop a growth plan, which outlines a specific growth project, budget, and outcomes. Coaches introduce firms to valuable networks and guide them through the voucher application process. And then firms can also submit a plan to a private sector selection committee, which to apply for these voucher programs. To voucher funding. The selection committee of industry leaders awards the vouchers based on predefined selection criteria, such as market opportunity or revenue growth. Applying for a voucher is optional, and firms that are not approved for a voucher will be referred to other existing support services that exist. To date, over 140 firms have applied for growth coaching. These include Scribble Live, which is a leading content experience platform that helps brands, sports, and media organizations manage the full life cycle of their content, as well as Wattpad, which is the world's largest community for readers and writers, helping to discover and share their stories. So as we've seen, startups need both capital and mentorship to succeed at every stage of their development. The Ontario Scale-Up Vouchers program addresses that need, helping companies grow and to create jobs here in Ontario. I'll pass it on to Arif now to take some questions. Thank you.
So we'd be happy to take questions again. So the Scale-Up Voucher program is meant for quickly growing companies. Past that $5 million threshold, we're going to grow very rapidly and exploit international opportunities. I think, as Annette mentioned, vouchers of up to $1 million are available on a competitive basis, and they're assessed by a private sector committee. And and that funding can be used to offset growth costs. So intellectual property protection, recruitment of executives, R&D development, capital financing costs. These are all covered under the program. I won't get into every detail, but I'm happy to talk to anyone interested in the program after this presentation. And if anyone has any questions right now, we'd be happy to address them, or you can come and see me or Annette after the presentation. Okay, well, if there's no questions right now, I will stick around and be happy to answer details. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Arif. I was busy doing an interview. I didn't realize I was going to do an interview. Our next presentation is from Shauna Bawley. Shauna is a senior policy advisor with the Ministry of Economic Development, Growth, and the Ministry of Research, Innovation, and Science, and will speak to us about Ontario's social enterprise strategy. If you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity to ask them at the end.
Hi Hi everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Shona Bewley, and as Narinder said, I'm a Senior Policy Advisor in the Entrepreneurship and Startup Services branch. And today I'll be talking to you about social enterprise and how the government is supporting social enterprise in Ontario. So a lot of people ask, what is social enterprise? And we know that definitions vary by jurisdiction, but generally speaking, social enterprises use business strategies to achieve a social or environmental impact. Social enterprises look and feel like traditional businesses. And this diagram you can see, it's kind of in that middle space. You'll have the charitable, nonprofit sector, and on the other end of the spectrum, you'll have the financial, commercial, traditional businesses. But social enterprise really fits in that middle spot. And we look at social enterprises, they can be for-profit businesses, not-for-profit businesses, and cooperative organizations. But there's something that keeps those social enterprises in that space, and they have a few things in common. So some of the things we look at is their revenue generation. Whether they're any of these in corporations, they still have a substantial portion of their income from the sale of goods and services. We also look at their intent to create impact. What is that intent? Is that built in and baked into the core of their business? And we look at impact measurement and reporting. Are they measuring and reporting on the impact that they're creating, whether that's social or environmental? And we also look at their business model. As their business grows, the social impact grows. So that's some of the key things that we look for in a social enterprise. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some examples of this. So we see social enterprises covering a range of sectors, different types of companies, different focuses. So I'm just going to highlight just a couple examples for you so you get a sense of what that looks like. So we have one. It's a company called New, and they're based in Ottawa. They're Ontario's first zero-waste grocery store, which is very interesting. And they focus on eliminating packaging from producer to consumer. Another example of a company is called For the Love of Laundry. And they provide free laundry services for people in the community, from low-income families and those in need. And they do that through a portion of their sales from their natural laundry products. So that's just kind of an example of what those companies do. And actually, all of these companies that you see profiled here, they're actually in the social enterprise zone for this Discovery Conference, so make sure you check them out. There's a lot of companies like this. You can ask them more detailed questions about their business model and what they do, but I encourage you to check them out over the next 2 days. So some quick facts about social enterprise in Ontario, and some of this is taken from a SEDNet report. It just gives a little bit of a highlight of what we're looking at. Many social enterprises in Ontario, on average, they have 38 staff, and they have revenues of, on average, 1.2 million. Some of the social enterprises that are nonprofits, they have a poverty reduction focus. So that just gives an example of what we generally see. So why is the sector growing? What is the opportunity here? I hate to use this word. A lot of people say millennials, but it actually is something that we look at and how people are spending their money and what they're focusing on. And a lot of people are choosing to look at investing in companies and spending their money where they know that there's a social or environmental impact. Also, it's consumer demand and seeing how people want to focus their energies and focus on the companies that have some meaning towards goals that they also have. Investment capital is being directed towards impact. We're seeing a trend where there's a lot of impact investors, and that's growing, and they want to see a portion of their investments have impact, and whether that's social or environmental. There's also a need for social enterprises. One thing that we see with social enterprises is they have new methods of service delivery, and they can do that in a number of ways. Sometimes we see examples through employment. Who are they hiring? They're providing opportunities to those facing barriers to employment. They're providing services that have these social or environmental impacts, and they're tackling really difficult policy challenges. And so that's something that we see through these types of companies, whether it's affordable housing, climate change, or poverty. Also, they're generating economic and social returns. So that's something that we see through the creation of jobs, attracting investor capital. So that's kind of where we see that growing opportunity happen within the social enterprise sector. So what does that mean for government? What does that mean for what we do and what we offer? So we have a 5-year social enterprise strategy, and the objective of that is to stimulate the growth and development of sustainable and scalable social enterprises, and to pilot innovative social finance tools across government. So we're doing that through 3 key priorities. One is business fundamentals, and this is where we're trying to support social enterprises in accessing those mainstream business supports. There's some tools and supports that social enterprises need that is a little bit different, but how do we integrate that into supports that are already in existence? Business growth and scale. This is something that is not unique to social enterprises. It's something that many businesses look for, is access to capital. Where can they find that capital, and where can they see more opportunities to get private investment capital, government support, or anything like that? And having access to markets. So that's something that is another focus that we do through the social enterprise strategy. I will talk a little bit more in detail of what that looks like, but that just helps to give you an overview. And then the last piece is demonstrating value. So we look at this through a number of ways. So one is promoting impact measurement. Consistent approach to measuring impact, and that's something that social enterprises can then in turn use to attract investment, government, and community support if they're able to demonstrate what is that impact. It's easy to look at the numbers, it's easy to look at the financial impacts, but how do we measure those social and environmental impacts? Also, we're doing a lot of work that is cross-government. We want to increase government's capacity to develop and leverage social enterprise in the work that they're doing. So there's a lot of different policy issues that social enterprises can reach, and we talk about that. You saw a couple of examples with environment, with poverty reduction. So how do we leverage that within government and connect with other ministries who can use social enterprises in their work? So business fundamentals. So I mentioned I would be going in a little bit more depth about what that looks like in our strategy. So one of the ways that we do this is we have a key program called the Social Enterprise Demonstration Fund. So we've done a couple rounds of this, but this provides nonprofits with money to then in turn deliver to social enterprises. And we do this so that it's more of a local approach. So in the first round of the Social Enterprise Demonstration Fund, we funded 11 intermediary organizations. And they were all across Ontario. We had some in the north, in the GTA, in Ottawa, and they're able to really look at the needs of the social enterprises in their region. So there's different needs, different challenges, and they can help them on that level. So that's an example of the program, and we just launched the 3rd round of the Social Enterprise Demonstration Fund in the fall of 2017. And through this program, we've seen a lot of interesting things. And from the first round, I'll just give you a couple facts so you can get a sense. The first round, we saw there was a creation of 606 full-time and part-time jobs through the program. And through all the 11 different organizations that then in turn provided funding to social enterprises, there was 468 knowledge transfer opportunities. They reached over 7,000 participants, and they provided approximately 200 loans and grants to social enterprises. So that's something that we built on, and then now we are in the 3rd round. As well, we have we call it the One Step program, but it's Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs Social Enterprise Partnerships program. And what it is 4 regional partnerships. We have a central, eastern, northern, and southwestern group. And they help social enterprises access business supports through this program. So what it really is integrating, and this is something that I said at the beginning, integrating what they're doing into mainstream business supports. So social enterprises can access the things that they need through those mainstream supports. Some things like impact measurement. How do we integrate that into what is in existence already for them to be able to get the help that they need to grow their business? It's important to leverage what we have that's existing and just really build on that for social enterprises. We also have something called the Social Impact Voucher Program. And we did this, there was 325 vouchers delivered to social enterprises. And they were able to access relevant training programs such as business planning, marketing to help scale up their business. So each of those companies were able to take this voucher to an organization that was in partnership and get that support. And that's helpful if you're looking for, you know what, I really need to grow my business, but what I need is just a little bit of legal advice, or what I need is just some marketing support. I don't have that in-house. I have a smaller company. It's a perfect way to do that. Next is access to markets and capital. So we're looking at key strategy initiatives to connect social enterprises to markets and capital to grow and scale. So this is something that I talked about before. And we can do this through social enterprise action plan for procurement action plan. We have a program called the Procurement and Investment Readiness Fund to support social enterprises in accessing the services they need to compete for procurement and investment opportunities. So it's very similar to the previous program, but what are those tailored supports that they need to take it to the next level, to compete in those larger procurement projects? And I know we're running out of time. I don't want to bore you with little details, so I'll move through, but that's just an example of how we're creating those opportunities to get better access to capital. The last area is demonstrating value. And so this is something that I was mentioning with the working with other governments. So we have a Center of Excellence in Social Enterprise and Social Finance. And we've launched 6 pilot projects across different ministries. And this is really engaging other staff across government. How can they use social enterprise? How can they partner with that? Even simple things like, we have this event. We can procure from a social enterprise to do our catering. How can they find ways to integrate that into the work that they're doing? As well, we convened an impact measurement task force, and this brought together some key sector leaders to look at how can social enterprises better measure their impact. Is there a uniform way to do that? And we're going to be continuing to do a little bit more work in that area around impact measurement. But that's just a quick overview of our strategy and what we do and how we help support social enterprises. I'm going to leave that there in case anybody has any questions before time runs out. So that's a good question. In Ontario, we don't have a specific incorporation for social enterprises. We can see that. I think there's other places, maybe BC or UK, don't quote me on that, where they have models where you can get a specific incorporation for social enterprise, but Ontario, we don't. But like I said, in our definition, we look at whether you're a nonprofit, registered as a nonprofit or for-profit, you can still be a social enterprise. Cooperative companies. So they're all in that bubble, yeah.
Really talked about that, and it's such an important part of the economy.
For sure.
And it's doing nonprofit and for-profit work. 1% of the economy GDP is contributed by cooperatives in Ontario, and they go from not-for-profit co-op to
Absolutely.
But I just wonder why there hasn't been more promotion of and facilitation of the movement by the government.
So, I mean, that's a larger discussion, and we can talk a little bit more about that afterwards. But like I said at the beginning, what we look at when we think about a social enterprise, cooperatives are right there, included in that group with for-profit, not-for-profit. So that's on the first slide that I showed. So I think that it's still important that we do recognize that, and we do support those companies as well. In all of our programs, we support any of those social enterprises that even prescribe to the cooperative model. Okay, I think. Do we have another question? Yeah, I mean, through all of our programs, we're supporting, it doesn't matter if they're not-for-profit, nonprofit, or for-profit, they can still access some of those business supports, and they can still access some of that financing. We see a lot of trend towards non-profit organizations who are looking to have an enterprising aspect of their not-for-profit. So whether that's they start up a catering company out of what they're doing to make revenue. So that's something that we do support in our programs as well. So we do have some of that with what we're doing. So I can share more about that with you. Yeah. Any other questions? Great. Thank you all so much for listening. Oh, you have a question. I recognize you. We're still in the process of looking into that. We did get really good feedback about that, but I think we also have some other programs that are trying to do some of that similar support. So we'll see that soon. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to encourage you all to check out the Social Enterprise Zone right behind you and visit the companies. We have about 20 companies in there, as well as a Social Enterprise Pitch Competition happening tomorrow morning at 9:15, so make sure you check that out. Thank you so much.
That was great. She plugged the social enterprise zone, which is fantastic. All right. Our next presentation is from Vanessa Garofalo. Vanessa is a senior policy advisor with the Ministry of Economic Development and Growth and the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science, and will speak to us about the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs, commonly referred to as the One Network. If you have any questions, there'll be time at the end for those. Thank you. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi there, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Vanessa Garofalo. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor at the Ministry of Economic Development and Growth and the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science. And I'm going to be speaking today about the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs, commonly called the One. I'm just going to, is it just here the slide? Green one? Okay. Okay, so in terms of an agenda, first I'm going to explain what the One is, and then I'm going to get into a little bit of structure, talk about the members, and then I'll talk about how each of the members can help various entrepreneurs in Ontario. And then in closing, I'll give you the contact information for the One, so how you can connect with the One and get services that can help support your business. So the One is a provincially funded network that helps individuals that are looking to start, grow, and finance a business. And so through this network, individuals can access all kinds of free services and supports, including expert advice and mentorship, financing opportunities, workshops and seminars, knowledge from Ontario's colleges and universities, and referrals to specialized assistance. So as I mentioned before, the One helps all types of businesses, but there's three main businesses that the One really focuses on, and that's outlined on this slide. So tech-based innovation companies and startups, small businesses and more mainstream kind of focused businesses, and export-oriented startups and SMEs. And so I'll get into a little bit further depth later in the presentation, but I just wanted to introduce the three types of companies up front. So as you can see on this slide, the One is a really diverse network. And in the One network, we have over 120 different members that work together across the province of Ontario to help those three types of entrepreneurs. So each of the members play a really specialized role to help those three different types of businesses. But as you can see from this slide, the main members of the One include 18 regional innovation centers, 44 colleges and universities with campus-linked accelerators and on-campus entrepreneurship activities. There are 47 small business enterprise centers and 12 Ontario investment field service offices. And so really the purpose of the One is kind of to bring together all these provincial supports in one place so that entrepreneurs can access all the provincial services in a convenient way and spend more time and effort running their business. So the first partner of the One network that I'm going to talk about are regional innovation centers, or RICs. So RICs work with innovation-based companies and tech-based entrepreneurs to help them grow and develop their businesses. And really, there are 18 regional innovation centers across the province, and they're all not-for-profit entities, and they act as local focal points for innovative companies. And so in this way, regional innovation centers help companies accelerate the commercialization process, develop high-value products and services, and leverage Ontario's research infrastructure and talent. So you may be wondering, how specifically can a RIC help me? If I'm an innovation-focused firm, what kind of services and supports can I get from a RIC? So as you can see on this slide, RICs offer a number of free supports and services. So they offer things like advisory services. So this is access to entrepreneurs in residence and volunteer mentors. They also offer education and networking, so things like online entrepreneurship training and in-person peer groups. They offer market research, so this would be access to market intelligence and things on sector size, market size, and things to help inform product development, as well as financing, so access to provincial programs like the Embedded Executive Program and the Investment Accelerator Fund. And so this slide here just shows you the 18 regional innovation centers across Ontario. And as you can see, there's 18 with geographic diversity. And you may be familiar with some of the bigger regional innovation centers like Mars or Communitech. But what I really want you to take away from this map is that there are 18 regional innovation centers all across the province, including ION all the way in North Bay and WeTech in Windsor. So the next member of the network that I'll talk about are small business enterprise centers. And as you'll remember from the beginning of the presentation, small business enterprise centers are devoted to focusing on helping small businesses and Main Street businesses. So these are typically companies with less than 10 employees, and the centers help them get information and projects and supports to help them grow and succeed. And so through the small business enterprise centers, they can access things like meetings with business consultants and access to other kinds of provincial programs. So as you can see on this slide, I've highlighted 2 provincial programs, and this includes the Summer Company Program and the Starter Company Plus program. And so these are 2 provincial programs that provide funding and training support to individuals and youth. So Summer Company is a program focused at youth, and Starter Company is a program focused at adults. And these are provincial programs that help individuals looking to start a business. And if you access a small business enterprise center, they can help you get access to these services. Small business enterprise centers also help make connections to established networks and organizations. So things like Board of Trade, Chamber of Commerce's, or sector associations. And small business enterprise centers will also provide lots of seminars and events on things that are of interest to small business, like marketing, branding, and financing. And so this slide right here just shows the small business enterprise centers in Ontario. So as I mentioned, there's 47 all across the province. And as you can see, we divide them into 4 regions. So there's Western Ontario, Northern Ontario, Central Ontario, and Eastern Ontario. But really what you can see from this slide is that no matter where you're located in Ontario, there's a small business enterprise center that you can access. So the next one member I'll speak a little bit about are the Ontario Investment Office Field Services. And so Ontario Investment Office Field Services are dedicated to helping existing and aspiring high-growth small and medium enterprises grow their businesses domestically and abroad. So whereas small business enterprise centers will help companies with around 10 employees, the field services offices will help small and medium enterprises, so typically 10 to 500 employees. And so the types of services that you can access through the field service offices, and there are 12 regional offices all across Ontario. So you can get information on domestic and export market development, support for innovation, new technology, and productivity, access to government programs at all levels of government, market intelligence, and access to public sector financing. And so really the senior business advisors, they'll meet with senior company executives and really get an understanding of problems and challenges facing their business and connect them to the best type of support they can need to grow their business. So the next member of the network of Ontario, the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs that I'll speak about is Angel Investors Ontario. And Angel Investors Ontario, they administer the Angel Network Program. And the Angel Network Program connects high potential entrepreneurs with angel investors, and these angel investors will provide capital and really valuable business expertise. So the Angel Network Program currently supports 12 angel groups and 14 investment clubs across the province with over 1,440 members. And Angel Investor Ontario, as with all members of the One, it's a really collaborative process. So they'll work with our other partners, including regional innovation centers, to source deal flow and opportunity. And if entrepreneurs are not yet investor ready, they can be referred to other members of the One, including regional innovation centers, to get training and mentorship to help them become investor ready. So now I'm going to speak a little bit about campus-linked accelerators and on-campus entrepreneurship activities. And really, up until now, the presentation has focused on how the one supports current entrepreneurs. But now I'll talk a little bit about how the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs supports the future generation and emerging entrepreneurs. And so really, we support the future generation of entrepreneurs through campus-linked accelerators and on-campus entrepreneurship activities, or we call them CLAs and OCAs. And basically, there's a network of these programs and activities at all 44 colleges and universities across Ontario. And these activities help create and sustain a culture of entrepreneurship among youth. And so how do these campus-linked accelerators and on-campus entrepreneurship activities do this? So they provide a number of services, including support for student-led clubs on innovation and entrepreneurship. They sponsor events like boot camps and hackathons and maker movements. And they really also try to expose students to entrepreneurship as a career path through interactions with successful entrepreneurs and just really exposing them to the idea of entrepreneurship as a future career. And so on this slide, so this has a map of the 18 regional innovation centers in Ontario, and then you can also see the 44 post-secondary institutions with campus-linked accelerators and on-campus entrepreneurship activities. So you may have heard of some of the more well-known campus-linked accelerators, like Velocity at the University of Waterloo and DMZ at Ryerson. But what you can really see from this map is that every college and university in Ontario has either a campus-linked accelerator or on-campus entrepreneurship activities. And these organizations work very closely with regional innovation centers and the post-secondary institutions to really support and foster youth entrepreneurship. So now I'm going to speak a little bit about Ontario Centres of Excellence. And Ontario Centres of Excellence plays a really important role in the one because they help administer industry academic collaboration programming. So in addition to throwing really great events like Discovery that bring together innovation partners, students, and companies, in the one, they administer the industry academic collaboration programming. So OC has a number of programs that some of you may be familiar with, and I'll touch on two of them a little bit later. But basically, through the industry academic collaboration programming, OCE helps connect academia and companies to conduct R&D and solve technical problems. So two of the programs that OCE delivers through the industry academic collaboration program are the Collaboration Vouchers and the Talent Edge internships and fellowships. So through the Collaboration Vouchers, this is a program that connects eligible Ontario companies with research institutions to conduct R&D and improve productivity, performance, and competitiveness. And through the Talent Edge internships and fellowships, so this allows current and recent graduates of colleges and universities to work on industry-driven collaborative projects. And so really, the Industry Academic Collaboration Program has a number of goals, but the main goal is really to maximize public investments in Ontario's publicly funded universities and colleges and research hospitals, to promote the greater commercial application of Ontario's research discoveries, and to really drive Ontario's future prosperity and competitiveness, and really ensure that, as a province, Ontario is competitive in emerging sectors so that this will drive future economic growth. Now I'll be speaking a little bit about Mars, because Mars also plays a really important role in the network. So Mars is the Regional Innovation Centre for Toronto, but in addition to this role, Mars also administers the Business Acceleration Program. And so through the Business Acceleration Program, Mars works with the 18 RICs across Ontario to create and share coordinated entrepreneurship programming. So this is programming that is administered throughout all the RICs and includes things like market intelligence, specialized mentorship, and entrepreneurship education. So these are the services that when you go into a RIC, whether you're in Thunder Bay, whether you're in Toronto, whether you're in Windsor, these are the types of services that you'll receive through the Business Acceleration Program. And through the Business Acceleration Program, this really helps support the development of innovation ecosystems across the province and help accelerate the growth of globally competitive, innovative companies. So that was a lot of information, and it's a lot of information in one slide deck. You might be wondering, how can I best connect with the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs? how can I get services that I need to support my business with my unique needs? So the best way to get in contact with the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurs is through the following website, onebusiness.ca. So when you go on onebusiness.ca, you can enter your postal code, and then there's a little questionnaire where you just have to specify what kind of company you are. So it'll ask you if you're a tech-based innovator, whether you're Main Street or small business, or whether you're an export-oriented SME. And based on what you choose, it will direct you to the one member that can best support you. So either an SPEC, a Regional Innovation Center, or Ontario Investment Field Service offices. And it'll give you the contact information so you can get in touch with them. So that concludes my presentation, and I think I have about 1 minute left. So I'd open the floor to any questions if anybody has any. Yep.
Thanks for this, very informative. And it's the first time I understand have such a program for the entrepreneurs and small business. And my question is actually for the small business, do you also support for joint venture for example, Ontario and China, this kind of joint venture projects and the program, those kind of program.
So you're asking if the small business centers will support joint ventures between Canada and other countries? Absolutely, because we acknowledge that going global is a really central part of the economy, and that in order for companies to be competitive, they need to be globally focused. So small business enterprise centers are not just limited to companies that are focused in Ontario. If you're an export-focused company, they'll definitely look to help you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where I can find particularly, for example, from I know you provide a lot of service, expertise, and to help support. How about the funding program? Is also support as well?
Yep, so small business enterprise centers can also connect you with funding from the federal governments, municipal governments, and when you meet with the business consultants, they can help you look into programs that will be a good fit for your company.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great.
How do we are actually an innovation center, so how do we join you guys, join the one? I just want to ask about this question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the one is, we're always looking to see what else is out there, but I mean, we can talk after, but at this point, I think we're kind of focused on streamlining and making sure that the services we do have are available for everyone, and whether that means working with the partners we have or adding new partners is something that will remain to be seen. But there's a number of private accelerators, private incubators out there, but really right now we're focusing primarily on the provincially funded ones, and those are the best to support the local ecosystems. I don't think so. Great. Thank you very much, and I'll be here to answer questions if you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for your presentation. There's also a presentation coming up in about 2 or 3 presentations, which is the Concierge Service, which is put on by the federal government, and they also provide this kind of a one-stop shop where you can ask them a bunch of questions and they can tell you, point you in a direction of funding from Ontario or funding from the federal government or municipal funding. So I think that's in about 3 presentations. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Innovation Partners Theatre. For those of you just joining us, my name is Narinder Dahal. I'm the VP Finance Programs and Administration at the Ontario Centres of Excellence. Our next presentation is from John Fielding, Regional Director, Eastern and Northern Ontario, who will be speaking to us about the activities of the Ontario Centres of Excellence. If you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask. Welcome, John Fielding.
Anybody in the back who wants to come on in, there's prime seats right up front here. So, hey, hi, Gord. So it's going to be a bit of a disappointment for folks. Narinder and I had developed an interpretive dance of the OCE programs, but Narinder sprained his ankle on the weekend, so you're going to have to just have me. So I'm sorry about that. Get better soon, Narinder. So let's have a little chat about OCE. So who are OCE? So there we go. So we're a non-for-profit organization. We were established about 31 years ago. And at the time, the government was investing a lot of money into universities. Not as much colleges back then, but mostly universities. And they were getting a lot of great academics out of it, but they wanted to get a little bit more. So they formed the Ontario Centres of Excellence. And we were to bridge the gap between industry and the research at the time to get good stuff out into the hands of the industry partners, right? So, and we are a founding member of the One Network, which you just heard a little bit about. So what do? So we support collaborative R&D between industry and academia, and that's been at our core since the 31 years ago, right? But over the years, we've started to expand our programs and be a lot more involved in other aspects, right? So one of the main things we do is invest in early stage commercialization and emerging technologies. We also do several programs, which you've heard a little bit about already, around entrepreneurship, right? And we also are working on some very strategic initiatives, which I'll get into. So how do we do this? Right? Well, we have a staff of about 45 business development managers across the whole province, right? And their role is to go out and spend 80% of their time with industry and the other 80% of their time with universities and colleges, right? And so the intent is to try and understand who's doing what out into the network, right? And then we are able to connect those people together and actually help them apply to our programs. So this kind of gives you a map of what we try to bridge together, right? So we are very much working on trying to bridge academics with government and industry, right? And we have a whole suite of programs that helps do that, right? So where do we play in the continuum, right? So we do not get heavily involved in fundamental research. There's programs like NSERC that have very large budgets to help in that very, very early stage, funding research chairs. Where we get involved is what we call applied research, right? Of where it's actually going to be in the last 3 to 4 years before a product is commercialized. That's the earliest stage that we get in. And that's actually our litmus test for our companies is when is your product going to be commercialized? And as long as it's in the next 5 years, then you're eligible for our programs. That's why, you know, people ask us whether we do drug discovery, and our basic answer is no, because it takes too long to do drug discovery, and about 20 times our budget. But we do work with drug discovery companies in helping support activities for them, right? Actually, I'm going to go back to this one sec. So basically, we get involved in very applied research, and then we go all the way out until there's market pull. Right? And that's very strategic for us, is if the market is not pulling on your product, then that's kind of where we leave off. And you know, the marketplace does need to pull on whatever it is you're working on, whether it be an academic or whether it be an industry partner. Because if there's no demonstrated market pull, then we don't want to continue to invest in you if that's not there. So we kind of have 5 buckets, and I've alluded to them a little bit before, but we do, and I'm going to explain a little bit in each one of the buckets, right? So we have collaborative R&D, campus entrepreneurship, which you've heard a little bit about the CLAs all the way, commercialization and demonstration, greenhouse gas reduction, and transformative technologies. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time in each one of these buckets. So the previous presenter talked to this, which is our collaborative voucher program, right? And so in here, this is just 2 examples of this program. There's actually must be about 10 programs in this suite, right? It's the Voucher for Innovation and Productivity. And this is a real cool one, right? Because this is where an industry partner has a challenge, and we're going to go out and find an academic partner, whether it be in a college or a university, who's going to be able to help the industry partner with that challenge. Okay? And so it doesn't need to be your core technology. It can be something tangential to your core technology. But we're going to try and find someone out there in the academic institutions who can help solve it. And we are completely connected with every single academic institution in the province. We have actually business development managers who are in there talking to them, understanding where their strengths are and where they're able to help industry. And so a typical business development person, at least 10 times a week, will get an email saying, hey, I'm working with company X on this product over here. Does anybody know anybody in the universities who are working on this, right? And then we network together and try to fund them. The other interesting program I thought I'd explain was our Voucher for e-business. So this is one that is, I'm getting quite a lot of feedback on the microphone here, so is the Voucher for e-business. So this is the one that connects small enterprises with colleges to help them with their e-business applications, right? So it might be setting up a back end for a small company, might be for setting up a website, adoption of technologies that are going on. So this is a program that we let the colleges run, right? We fund them, and they do a whole series of projects. These are smaller amounts, right? So these are like, they do $5,000 to help a company set up their website. Now, it's not meant to compete with website providers out there, but this has helped them get going so that they can then get their business off the ground, which means they will then go to maybe a larger provider later on to make this real. Commercialization and demonstration programs. So these are really interesting ones. And so we call them our Small Business Innovation Challenge, or SBIC. Has to be an acronym for everything, right? So what this is doing is it's engaging SMEs directly in solving public sector challenges, right? So this allows the SME to engage with the government to solve a particular problem that the government has. So we have ministries who come to us and say, you know, we've got a challenge with this. And I talked to a few of them down below. Vehicle occupancy detection, right? So the Ministry of Transportation said, you know, we're starting to have a problem with detecting how many people are in a car, whether it be in our high occupancy lanes, whether it be going to border control. It's a challenge for them because they have bottlenecks in all these areas, right? So they launched a challenge to try and find companies who have technology ready, right? So this is not big research going on in this. This is technology ready. And we will fund the company to be able to do a demonstration program for the government, right? And the intent of this is that they'll do the demonstration program, then the government will go, yeah, this looks like a viable technology, and then they would go into the RFP process for the government. Because often trying to engage with the government is really hard to make it through their RFP processes, because if you're a small company, you don't have the credibility yet, right? So this allows a small company to gain credibility with the government and try and get them to adopt your technology. So we've done several of these. Digital identity, right? Trying to figure out who you are, who you say you are. Each member of the government, each ministry of the government has their own different way of categorizing you, and like you have a driver's license, which is different than your health card, which is different than, you know, this one over here. So we've done for that. Vehicle occupancy and roadside drug detection is the one that's really coming up front right now. You know, the Prime Minister said, hey, we're going to, you know, it will become legal, right? And all the police forces are going, oh, how am I going to detect this, right? There's a Dorito joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to skip this one a little bit, but the CLA program was huge for us, right? She talked about it earlier, the previous presenter, and it was a large investment, but this actually really stimulated entrepreneurship at the academic level. And what we recognized is that a lot of the universities had, you know, entrepreneurship clubs, right? but they really weren't tied together. And what this program did is it gave funding to the universities and colleges so that any student in their system would be able to, who had an entrepreneurial bent, would be able to put up their hand and go, oh, this is where I go to learn about being a startup, right? So it was very helpful for, the students in the chemistry department who had no entrepreneurship club in chemistry. So this was a wonderful program for us. Greenhouse gas reduction. So this is one of our interesting ones where we actually fund large companies, right? And we have this one is broken into several different programs, but the basis of this program is not economic development, which is at the heart of most of our other programs. This one, the heart is reaching greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, right? So we are actually helping large companies with investment in technologies to be able to reduce greenhouse gases. We've also now spun out with several other programs where we're looking at the food manufacturing industry as well as manufacturing in itself to try and make it more efficient from a greenhouse gas perspective. This is the one I want to spend just a few minutes on. This is our Strategic Transformative Technology Initiatives, or you'll hear it commonly called TTI, right? This is a broad platform that the government has invested in, and it's all very connected, even though it's separate programs. So we have a series of initiatives, starting with the IBM Innovative Incubator Project, or the I3 project. And this connects companies who think they need to have big data and big data analytics. And you heard from the presentation this morning how critical big data is to companies, right? So this program enables companies to get access to IBM Watson computing, right? Whether it be the cognitive analysis programs that they have, the facial recognition programs they have, or just cloud access, right? So it gives companies access to the IBM platform. And you don't have to worry if you're not really an IBM customer or you're on an Amazon, because there's still stuff that IBM offers to clients like their cognitive abilities that can be meshed up of whether you're on an Amazon or another type of service. The next one is Next Generation Network Program, right? And I'm going to kind of combine Next Generation and Encore. So this is significant investment in this platform. So if you know of the Internet of Things, and everybody's phones are starting to get faster and have more high-resolution video on it, you heard of the, where we're going to have smart homes and smart cars and connected vehicles, and just it goes on and on and on. Well, the challenge with this is that the current bandwidth and the current way that we pass information from pipe and city to city is not sustainable, right? It will not be able to handle the large volumes that are expected, right? It's now going into an exponential curve of data that is going to be generated out there. You think of it, your fridge is going to start talking to you, and your toaster is going to start talking to you, and manhole covers are going to start sending out data, right? So there's going to be this massive influx of data, and this program is intended to have companies connect to state-of-the-art equipment to try out to see if their software or hardware is going to work. Because right now, if I'm a small company and I said, hey, I've got this great thing that's going to work for Internet of Things and be able to handle all this data, a company's going to go, great, does it work on a network? And then go, yeah, well, TELUS won't allow us to come on the network, right? This will allow you to connect on a currently state-of-the-art network that will span all across the province, and you can either go in and test your software solutions or test your hardware solutions. And the gentleman in the back of the room, I was talking to him, and he goes, we really want you to bust the system, right, so we can find out what's wrong with your product and how we can make it better, right? Encore is the same concept, except for it's working with 5G, right? And 5G is coming, and 5G is low latency and high speed, right, that will be able to do things in real time, right? So it will be able to enable things like autonomous vehicles where you'll have fleets of trucks that are going down the highway at 120 kilometers an hour separated by 2 feet without any drivers in them, right? Because it'll be able to to communicate very quickly at high speeds, right? And so that's the same concept of where you will now have the ability to test your software or hardware on a 5G network and be able to try to bust it and see if it's going to work. So, and then there's the autonomous vehicle program, which is kind of focusing in on that, where there's being able to do a lot of connecting up with vehicles. There's going to be nodes across the province where if you have technologies that are going to be related to autonomous vehicles or connected vehicles, you can go and try them out. So this has been a very high level. I encourage you to connect up with our business development managers who are all here today. And if you have questions, I think there's over 50 programs that we have right now. And I've only covered on the highlights on them. So please do connect with us, and I'll now open it up for questions. Got to be a question out there. Here's the microphone.
Since it's very informative, I see you have a lot of the big programs, the informative programs. How individual or the small company can involve, can participate? Is this one already launched or is it still in the process to call vendors?
Yeah, so the question is, how do small companies get engaged with us, right? Well, that's really easy. You get engaged with us through our business development staff. And what they do is they go and meet with you, and they try and understand what your needs are as a company, and then they will work with you to understand which program is best suited for you. We have talent programs, we have small $5,000 programs, we have $1 million programs. And really a company, the challenge in the past is companies go, I don't know which one's going to work for me, right? Well, what we do is you connect with our business development staff, which are all across the province, and they're going to work with you to go, this is the right program for you. And it could be a mix of 3 or 4 programs, or it could be an individual one with a college. Does that answer your question? Is there any other questions out there? There's one back here.
Hi, I have a question about the VIP program. So if a professor owns his own company, can he use the company to apply for a VIP program to help him his company academically?
No, you can't. That's conflict of interest, right? So if you can't have a company that's funding its own research internally, so no. But I can talk to you about that separately. Okay, I think that's my time, so thank you very much. His ankle's a lot better.
Next year, the interpretive dance, the innovation dance. Actually, we're about 5 minutes ahead of schedule, so we're going to just take a little brief pause, and then we'll have John Warren from Mars here in a couple of minutes. Thanks. Good afternoon. I'm Narinder Dahal, VP Finance Programs and Administration here at the Ontario Centres of Excellence. I'd like to introduce you to our next presenter, John Warren, Senior Director of Venture and Corporate Programs at Mars Discovery District. If you have any questions, there'll be some time at the end for you to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk a little bit about Mars, what we do, and in particular I want to talk about the things that we do that are available for entrepreneurs across the province, because the things that we do at Mars aren't just for the ventures that are serviced through Mars, they are available through the Regional Innovation Centre network. If I can get this to move. So some of you may know Mars already, but if I can see a show of hands, is there anyone here who has not been to Mars? One person, okay. This is all for your benefit, okay? So we're actually North America's largest urban innovation hub, and we call it Innovation Hub because we're not an accelerator, and we have incubation space, but we do a lot more than just incubation. So with 1.5 million square feet, we got over 200 tenants, and about 6,000 people come to work at Mars every day. It's what we call a curated community. So it's not just a piece of real estate. Everyone who works at Mars has a role to play as it relates to either R&D or to commercialization of technology. We have about 100 plus startups there, but a lot of other companies are there as well. So we got Public Health Ontario, Ontario Institute of Cancer Research, we got Facebook Canada, we got the Vector Institute with all their offshoots, we got the Applied AI arm of Samsung there, we got Applied AI from RBC there. So we got lots of different things. We got a big department from Autodesk's R&D there. So in total, there's a bunch of different things happening within every single sector that we are supporting. It's a busy space. For those who've been there, you'd see that a lot of times there are lots of events happening in our space. We got over 150,000 people coming through for events and meetings every year, and in over 2,000 meetings. So it's a pretty busy space. There's always a lot of energy in the room, and that's great. Hey, Peter. So what we're trying to do at Mars is to bridge the gap between invention on the one side and adoption on the other side. So most of the people that work in the space, in sort of the innovation and the commercialization space, focuses on what we call the innovation supply side. They work with the entrepreneurs that have ideas, the startups, to try to help them become better companies and to build their businesses. What we do that is different from most other places is that we also work on the market adoption side. So we have several programs that are designed to help direct access into customers or into the marketplace for our ventures. So for instance, the Advanced Energy Center is focused on helping utility companies to become better at change and to adopt innovation. We have something called the Corporate Engagement Program where we partner with large Canadian enterprises, including public sector organizations like hospitals, that are interested in new technology. And then we find the companies in our portfolio that match their strategy, and we make connections that way. So that kind of a market adoption play is pretty unique, and we're one of the few companies that do that, or few organizations that do that. I run something called Venture Programming, which is delivered at Mars, but it also delivered across the province, and in fact delivered online. So it's very available and accessible for any entrepreneur. We have a number of courses that are aimed at developing business skills for entrepreneurs. So typically the entrepreneurs that are in Ontario are not straight out of university. The profile of an entrepreneur in Ontario is that they're on the second or third career. The average age is just shy of 40 years. And so they come to us and they start a business with relatively strong domain expertise. But most of them have not run a business before. So our program is designed to help them overcome some of the typical business challenges they have, whether that's figuring out what their initial value proposition is, how they can make money on that, how to sell it and how to market it, how to build up their finances and so forth. That's kind of what our programming is about. And then as the companies grow, our programming becomes more specialized. So if you look at the sort of the bottom right corner, the small group advisory, as is where we focus on very hands-on, almost tutoring, I would call it, to help out these companies. So in total, we do about we train about 15,000 entrepreneurs a year. We do about almost 400 live sessions per year, and it's a pretty sort of large program by any standard, and all for the benefit of Ontario entrepreneurs. This is a map of attendees in our latest or our last 3 cohorts for Entrepreneurship 101, which is an online course that we run every quarter, and it shows that we have participants from almost the entire globe in every single cohort. They take a course that is run online, but it has a live component because they can access the same community through Slack. So there's a lot of activities and things that you can do in Slack that helps, like accessing an expert or ask your community for help with anything. So it's quite interesting to see that for some reason, all these entrepreneurs around the world are finding our programming. I have no idea how they find it, but it's pretty cool. And we've had some really interesting ideas. There's a woman in Senegal that is building out the Uber of airline because it's so difficult to travel inside of Africa, apparently. So she's looking at figuring out how to connect flights there. And you know, a lot of really cool ideas being developed. We do have programming and resources that are specifically for our community as well. So this is called the RIC Practitioners Platform, where we help the people that are working across Ontario, that work at the regional innovation centers, with resources that they can share directly with their ventures, with tools that they can use when they are working with the ventures, and a lot of training material and other things to help speed up and make the interactions that they have with their ventures better. Can I go back? Okay. Another program that we produce at Mars and deliver across the province is market intelligence. It's a very, very valuable service for the small companies in Ontario, where we have negotiated agreements with all the leading research houses in the world. We have about 25 different research providers that we can get up-to-date market access from, that is available for free if you have a startup in Ontario. And the average market research request is worth around $15,000. So we help about 1,000 startups a year with this service. So, and there's no way that these startups can afford to go out and buy $15,000 worth of market research for themselves. We're paying a fraction of that to these research firms. So it's a hugely leveraged service that gives a lot of resources to our companies. Now, market intelligence do other things as well. They help us develop online programming and valuation because they provide a lot of data for it. They help us develop programming on market sizing and investment readiness. And they have specialized services on new market assessment, brand assessment, that are hugely valuable for companies as well. It's a team of about 13 people, and it's the biggest tech analyst community in Canada, and I actually do service companies outside of Ontario as well on a fee-for-service basis. The final thing I'm going to mention is a funding program called Embedded Executive. This is a very, very impactful program that we run once a year, where we have $1 million. And we ask companies to tell us if there's a key executive hire that they would like to make for a 6-month period. We contribute $50,000 towards that. They have to contribute a certain amount as well to and match the salary of the executive. But the impact of this program has been tremendous. We've run it for almost 10 years now. A good amount of the people that come into the ventures through the Embedded Executive, they stay on. But they are resources and their talent and capacity that the ventures would not be able to afford to themselves. So at the time when they are eligible to get the Embedded Executive, they have to have less than $1 million in revenue and less than $1 million in capital. So they're really kind of at the early stages. And this just gives them a lot of leverage because they can add, generally they may be 1 or 2 key executives among the founders at that point, and they can add a third one. It adds a lot to the management capacity of the company. So as I said, our programming is for the most part created at Mars, but it's delivered both live and online through the regional innovation centers and at all the 17. I think we're at 18 regional innovation centers now. And if there's anyone here that has questions about this, I'm happy to answer that now. Did that make sense? That's great. Any questions? So, yeah, so So getting started meaning is accessing support from Mars. So as I said, you can either get it through Mars or you can get it at any of the regional innovation centers, depending on where you live, of course, so it can be practical for you. A ton of what we have is available for free and it's available online. So whether it's our library of videos and articles and stuff, it's available online. The online courses, for the most part, are free and available through you online. If you go to the Mars events page, it will list our workshops, and they're also available for free. So there's a ton of stuff that is available. You don't need to have a formalized relationship. If you want to have access to advisory services, that is done on a, you have to apply for venture services. We support about 1,200 ventures, but there's only about 20 full-time advisory staff, so we're a little bit short of capacity. So what we're trying to make sure is that the ventures that we do support, that they actually fit within our areas of expertise, so we can actually help them. So that's one thing. We support companies in 4 different tech verticals, so life sciences, energy and the environment, finance and commerce, and intelligent enterprise. So if you fit within one of those, then that's sort of a good starting point. And yeah, we just look at the technology and the potential for the technology before we offer the potential of support there. That make sense?
You mentioned that there's a co-working space at Mars. Do you have actually on-site incubator or accelerator?
So no, we don't have co-working space at Mars, sorry. We don't. We have some incubation space. Johnson & Johnson runs an accelerator for life sciences inside our space, but we don't unfortunately have any co-working space there. So that's.
So Mars doesn't run, like your team doesn't run an incubator or accelerator?
No, we don't. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, and I'll be here if you have further questions. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Narinder Dahal, VP Finance Programs and Administration at the Ontario Centres of Excellence, and welcome to the Innovation Partners Overview at Discovery. Our next speaker is from the Canadian Intellectual Property Office. CIPO is a special operating agency that is part of the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. Here to present is Dimitru Olariu, who is a Business Development Officer with the agency. There'll be questions at the end for, there'll be time at the end for questions. Please welcome Dimitru.
Thank you very much. So this presentation is about intellectual property. We will talk about who we are and why intellectual property is important. It's scheduled in different groups. Let me tell you a bit about why intellectual property is important. Intellectual property deals with creations of the mind, and depending on what you created, you might have a say on the use of that creation. That would be, in a very short definition, what intellectual property. But this kind of right that you acquire once you apply for a form of intellectual property, like patents, trademarks, copyrights, industrial designs, they are the main types of intellectual property. They are valuable business assets because it gives you a competitive advantage. In the meantime, all these rights are very good incentives for people to innovate and create. So it's a direct link to innovation. Canadian Intellectual Property Office, it's an agency of innovation, science and economic development Canada. And recently this ministry presented in the budget the new National Intellectual Property Strategy. That will boost a little bit the innovation in Canada. The Ministry in general supports the Canadian innovators, also supports innovation through superclusters and innovation in growth industry. Nevertheless, also helps women entrepreneurs deal and grow their business. Canadian Intellectual Property Office is mostly known like administering many types of intellectual property in Canada that I mentioned, patents, trademarks, copyrights, industrial design, integrated circuit topographies, for example. So it has that role of issuing efficient and effective intellectual property rights. A role more and more important lately is to inform people how the intellectual property system works and take advantage of the system, what we call raise awareness on the effective use of intellectual property and share the information that is gathered in our databases to support follow-on innovation. And it has an important role, this IP awareness and innovation, in order to make Canada a global leader in innovation. More you'll be informed about how the intellectual property system works, you'll be able to create, innovate, and help your business grow. And we have some relevant statistics, actually, that SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, that hold formal intellectual property assets are 4 times more likely to export. 64 of these companies are more likely to experience high growth. And 32% of all this are actually using intellectual property assets to get financing. So very strong numbers on the value of intellectual property. However, there is a gap. 14% of all these companies are performing R&D and hold and use patents, for example. That's a very small percentage. Other scary statistic in a way is that 80% of small and medium-sized enterprises think that they don't need intellectual property. So, and also you'll obtain different forms of intellectual property and it will give you the right incentive to protect your invention and creations. However, you have to make use of these intellectual property assets, make work in your business in order to increase your profit. You have to have some sort of intellectual property strategy. And unfortunately, of these companies that hold patents, 33.8%, only 9% have a clear vision on how to use their intellectual property assets. So it's quite important to make IP awareness and education in intellectual property. And CIPO does that by developing intellectual property products for key sectors of activity. We also have, and I will go in further detail, a whole suite of IP resources on our website. We also have, and they'll go further detail, a link that will help innovators access the so-called intellectual property experts. So how CIPO supports innovation, we'll go in further detail. There are 3 kinds of resources available for IP awareness and education program. You have online resources, and we'll give you an example. You also have IP learning events, and I will tell you what they are and how to participate at these events. You will also have the possibility to interact with our intellectual property experts. So on our website, you have a so-called IP for Business site, and there you'll find basic information about different types of intellectual property, what we call IP foundations. You have videos as well. You have fact sheets, IP inventory checklist. You also have a so-called IP roadmaps explaining what will happen with your intellectual property application when you process with our office. So very useful startup information on our website. You also have more, I would say, developed publications. You have business guides, how to deal with the intellectual property abroad. You also have interactive online tools like games, and you'll have case studies and videos. Going a step further, coming soon, you'll have there a so-called IP hub where you'll ask different IP users to come with their own stories and tell us how we can improve, and also how to use different intellectual property services. I was talking about a suite of events that we have, learning events. If you have a specific IP in mind, if you cannot make it in person, you may subscribe all these events. Keep in mind that there is a lot of room to improve in your IP knowledge when you start your business. So in order to participate in these events, you may go on our website on the calendar of CIPO events and choose your event, and you have a brief description of the event, and then you may participate at it. We also provide customized training, so we prepare presentations for interested groups in specific sectors, women entrepreneurs, indigenous people, people from different sectors of activity. You also have two options to interact with our IP experts. You may contact our client service center, or you may connect with an intellectual property advisor as myself, and we have a network of these advisors across the country. So making the right connection, I'll give you an example. When you have a basic questions about intellectual property, you may be interested in contacting the client service center. They will give you information about how to do IP searches, what is the status of your application. If you have an online issue, they might be very helpful. If you're a little bit more advanced and, on intellectual property knowledge, you may interact with one of our advisors, intellectual property advisors, and they will assist you in giving you a set of options that you might have based on your own situation. It won't be a legal advice, however, it will be very useful in order to have a good starting point. So here you have on this website, on this slide, list of our IP advisors across the country, and we are increasing this network. So typical client questions, just to have a better idea how we work with our clients. Assuming that we have three clients of different IP profile, a different IP stage. So we'll go first with Mark that has some questions about how to start his business. He's not sure he needs a trademark or a patent. So best thing for him would be to contact our client service center. Then you have Arlene that is a bit more sophisticated in terms of IP level. She has a business and she would like to export abroad. So she might contact one of IP advisors and get help with how to do business abroad and use the intellectual property system. Then you have Kendra, I would put it an experienced entrepreneur with a portfolio of intellectual property assets, a lot of patents. So she would be interested in commercializing this intellectual property that she owns. So she might use our tech transfer toolkit, may contact an intellectual property advisor. So a few words about our client engagement. We invite organizations to partner with us because we can offer an expert advice on intellectual property. We have a network of specialists that might be of assistance to you. We may prepare custom-made intellectual property presentation that might be useful for your partners, and you may embed our tools, intellectual property tools, in your website. I invite you also to join our research community. So if you have something to say about your intellectual property experience, please give me your business card at the end of this presentation, and I will put you in contact with our research group, and you'll be able to test our new products. You'll be able to share your experiences. So in a summary, You may find a lot of useful intellectual property tools on our website, and that part IP for Business. You may find useful intellectual property guides for exporting. And there are a lot of other government programs supporting innovation you find on the innovation.canada.ca. It's our contact information. It's a self-paced presentation. However, we have a booth here, and I invite you, if we will not have time to answer all your questions, to visit our booth. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, please. You have a mic. So as I understand, your question is what kind of solutions you have when you deal with the intellectual property system. Actually, it's a very good starting point to contact us first, because as I mentioned, we will give you options and we'll give you an unbiased advice. It's not a legal advice. However, you have all these options. You'll know who are the experts who can help you. What I can tell you is that you get for your creation or innovation that intellectual property right. However, it's your own obligation to police it properly and enforce it. So it's a bit of responsibility for you to have some sort of a plan of what you'll do with the intellectual property right that you'll acquire and have a proper budget. It's always advisable, especially for patents, to have a legal counsel, to have a registered patent agent or lawyer who will help you process your patent application with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Dimitru. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but we might as well keep rolling. Get to the networking session. Trish, you ready to go? No, I don't mean to rush you. Good afternoon. I'm Narinder Dahal, VP Finance Programs and Administration at the Ontario Centres of Excellence, and welcome to the Innovation Partners Overview at Discovery. Our next speaker is Trish Barrow, who is an advisor for Concierge Service. Concierge is a single point of access to government, private resources, and funding to help entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized enterprises build their businesses. Please note there'll be time at the end for some questions. Please welcome Trish Barrow.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Trish Barrow, as Narinder just pointed out, and I'm with the NRC IRAP's Concierge Service. We are a free service that's offered by the Government of Canada. We launched in December of 2013, so we've been around for about 4.5 years now. So far to date, I think we have engaged with about 15,000 companies from across Canada. So we're the biggest well-kept secret, I think, in the government, but hopefully after today you'll all know about us and want to come in and get involved. There are 17 of me across the country. We also have 3 regional innovation officers who will help with the earlier stage companies. Right now, we're in the process of transitioning over to the Ministry of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. But for the next 6 months to a year that transition will take, it's business as usual. One of the great things that's coming out of our involvement with ISED is this website that they've developed called innovationcanada.ca. Very basically, it offers access to over 1,000 different programs regionally, provincially, and federally. Everything that from grants to wage subsidies, tax credits, etc. Basically, they are automating, if you will, the concierge process. So if you go online, you can go onto Innovation Canada, put in your specific parameters, and you'll get a list of programs that are available to help you, be it, as I said earlier, wage subsidies or whatever it is that you're looking for. If, however, you like the more personal face-to-face interaction, that's when you come to Concierge. So once you've gone to the website, found the programs, you want more information, want that more personal touch, please feel free to get in touch with us. What we do is we'll provide you with general advice on the programs that are available, and where possible, we will put you in direct contact with that program so that they will then walk you through the application process. Who we work with are innovative companies with less than 500 employees. Typically, they're incorporated in Canada. However, we have been working with some who are incorporated outside of Canada as well, but have a large presence here. So not just a sales office, but perhaps an R&D establishment, that sort of thing. We will work with most any stage of technology. Certainly there are more programs available once you're beyond the concept and have that minimum viable product. We'll provide you with access to not just funding, but also resources, facilities. If you need lab facilities, etc., we can get you in contact with those. How to get in touch with us? There are 3 ways. You can call into our 1-855 number. They will take information on your company, what you're doing, where you're at, where you're located, etc. And then they'll make sure you get connected into the right region. Or you can self-serve on our website. If you complete a website form, it does go to the call center and they'll call you back for more information. So ultimately you end up talking to either a call center agent or one of the RIOs. And also we do take direct referrals from our partners. So OCE quite regularly refers into us, as do our other partners. So, and speaking of partners, here's a list of some of them. This will change depending on where you are in the country. If you're in BC, you'll see the WD, that sort of thing, on their presentations. So, and about me, I'm the IA for the Southwest Ontario region, so I cover from Yonge Street all the way west to Windsor. 20 years of experience in startups before I joined OCE and then ultimately the National Research Council. I have an MBA from Schulich. My contact information is there as well. And that's it. Any questions? It's a really simple program to explain. So, any questions? Oh, there's one. So a minimum viable product is, it's not the ultimate product you're going to sell to the market, but one that you can give to, say, alpha customers for them to test so you can get some information and feedback on the product. You'll input those into the product and then that might become your actual commercializable product. So it's just that stage before.
Thanks for this presentation. How I can identify this as an innovation product and the qualified and the process? It should be also, you can look at the website, someone
So you can look at the website, and our idea or our definition of innovation is anything that's new for your company. It doesn't have to be a new for the world process or procedure. As long as it's new to your company, then it's innovative in our definition of it. Other programs, not so much. They want to see new to the world. So.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So what we try to develop the product actually is not existing.
So.
It's not concept new, but it just doesn't exist.
Okay.
So and this service for all small, medium or small company. So I don't know whether we can categorize as an innovation because we are thinking about from funding perspective, which area we should go to innovation or go to the small business development. Just try to understand
where you fit.
Yeah.
And what I would suggest is that you phone into the call center, give them a description of what it is and what you're doing, and then you'll probably end up talking to one of the innovation advisors, such as myself, and then we'll be able to help guide you. Okay? You're welcome. Hi.
You mentioned access to funding. Is that in a number of areas as in research and development?
Absolutely. We are completely sector agnostic. So if you're in clean tech, we'll introduce you to clean tech funding or funding specific for clean tech. If it's med tech, then it would be medical device technologies funding, that sort of stuff. So, sorry?
It's medical device.
Okay. And we can have a conversation offline if you'd like. But there are certainly areas out there or funding programs out there that will help with development of medical devices. So, okay.
And you will be excited to learn that Hong Kong is one of the world's most vibrant startup hubs. According to the latest survey, there are nearly 2,000 startups in Hong Kong, involving 5,600 workstations and 5,000 staff. These are, of course, driven by the city's supportive incubators and accelerators, such as the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation, the strong funding support for startups provided by angels and venture capitalists, plus all the enduring business advantages of Hong Kong, such as a free open economy, our common law system like Canada with a vigorous intellectual property protection regime, our English and Chinese bilingual proficiency, our highly educated, hardworking and efficient task force, and most importantly, a proximity to the largest potential market of mainland China, and the strong manufacturing base for prototyping and production just across our border. On this note, I must also mention that our profits tax system has just recently been overhauled. The first 2 million Hong Kong dollars profits of incorporated businesses are only subject to a tax rate of 8.25%. And we are also planning to give out additional tax deductions of up to 300% for R&D expenditure incurred by enterprises. And most importantly, Hong Kong and Canada have an agreement in place to avoid double taxation. And turning to funding, we know that it's very important to startups. And apart from angels and venture capitalists in Hong Kong that I've mentioned, there is a very important initiative on our part that our government has launched a 2 billion Hong Kong dollars innovation and technology venture fund scheme last year to co-invest on a matching basis with private venture capital funds in local technology startups. And of course, other public bodies under the government also have different funding schemes to support startups. In terms of infrastructure, we are committed to providing world-class technological research infrastructure in Hong Kong. Apart from the great infrastructure provided by Science Park now, we are also working with the Shenzhen government to jointly develop a mega innovation and technology park at the adjoining border. And we aim to connect the upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors of innovation and technology industries on both sides of the border so that we can develop an international innovation and technology hub there. So all in all, Hong Kong provides an ideal macro environment as well as concrete support measures for technology startups to flourish in Hong Kong. So that's the big picture. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the time to my colleagues at Invest Hong Kong and also Science Park to give you more details. And may I first invite Ms. Jay Chan, Head of Start Me Up Hong Kong of Invest Hong Kong, to come up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you so much to OCE for inviting us to actually speak with you. It's really exciting. It's my first time actually in Toronto and actually at OCE, and the kind of companies that I've met has been absolutely amazing. And for companies that are interested looking into an international expansion to Asia, I really suggest that you potentially look at Hong Kong. So my name is Jane Chan. I head up the Start Me Up division at Invest Hong Kong. Invest Hong Kong is a government department helping overseas companies set up in Hong Kong, and I look after the whole gamut of startup community. So the actual startups themselves, investors, as well as like corporate innovation labs and other kind of groups as well to set up in Hong Kong. So I just want to talk a little bit about the Asia's, what we see as the most dynamic startup ecosystem, and I'll give you a little bit more information about that as we go forward. Do I just press? I just press this. Yeah. Okay. Great. So as an economic powerhouse, I actually think Hong Kong's pretty well known in the business sense and also in the financial services sense. We have a lot of high net worth individuals in Hong Kong. We've got 149,000 at the last count. And the high net worth individuals, are usually defined as having $5 million US in disposable income to actually spend on discretionary kind of investments. So this excludes all your things like mortgages as well as ownerships in different properties. So we have a high pool of such individuals who are now starting to get into the angel kind of investing stage. We are the recipient of the fourth largest amount of inward FDI into any territory. This compares, I think we're behind China and the US and the UK in this sense, and we are fourth. So you can see as a population of 7.2, 7.3 million people, to be the fourth largest recipient of inward FDI shows that we actually, have a lot to do in the business, in the international business sense. And also, if you don't know, Hong Kong is the busiest air cargo port in the world. Memphis comes a second, and that's because it's the home of FedEx. But in Hong Kong, we actually really, really put a lot of products through our airport hub, and we're looking to expand that even further. In terms of the business kind of advantages, Kathy mentioned our enduring advantages. It really is. It's quite fundamental in terms of just pure business sense. We are the world's freest economy. We've been ranked by a whole number of different, independent foundations and institutions. It just means that you can actually have a free flow of capital. You have a free flow of talent, and basically, as a business to set up in Hong Kong, it's very, very easy. We are the gateway to Asia, and if you look at where we are geographically, we really are in the heart of Asia. Within 3 hours flight, we reach a substantial part of Asia's population. Within 5 hours, we're reaching half the world's population. So if you've got a business that you're looking to leverage a lot of these potential markets, Hong Kong is a very good way to actually reach those markets in a physical and geographical sense. We have a very simple tax system. It's 16.5 as a corporate tax, and Kathy also mentioned that in our latest financial secretary's budget in February that we've actually reduced that to 8.25 for the first, I think, $2 million worth of profit. So, already in a very, very low kind of tax base, we're reducing that even more, hopefully to try and stimulate further development for startups and SMEs as well. World-class infrastructure, transport system in Hong Kong is absolutely incredible. It really is. I think if you come to Hong Kong, you try the subway system, the ferry system, the bus system. It's very, very effective, and it works very, very well. And the prices are also very cheap. So just in terms of the physical infrastructure, it's very good. And recently, with the launch, actually the upcoming launch in Q3 of the high-speed rail network to Shenzhen and from there to the other parts of China, it will take us from the center of Hong Kong to Shenzhen, which is where a lot of the hardware manufacturing and innovation is based, in 14 minutes. 1-4. I mean, it'd be quicker sometimes to actually go from Hong Kong to Shenzhen and China than it is to go to Starbucks and grab a coffee. So we're talking about that level of convenience and that level of integration. And of course, we have 7 research universities in Hong Kong and very diverse, high-quality talent. It's also home to a very thriving startup ecosystem. We've been doing a survey with all the co-work spaces, accelerators and incubators in Hong Kong, and just to try and get an idea of where we are in terms of development of startups. And at the last count, this is the figures for 2017, we've just got 2,200 companies over that residing at the various co-work spaces, accelerators and incubators. Now, taking into account some of the growth companies are not going to be included in those physical locations, our actual real number is much higher than that. The kind of the amount of people that they're employing at these startups residing at these co-work spaces, accelerators and incubators is 6,000, and actually we've got a lot of accelerators and incubators in Hong Kong. You'll see some of these here. We've got, obviously fintech is a big focus for us. We are one of the world's financial centers, and we've got a lot of strategic talent in financial services in Hong Kong. So correspondingly, you'll also find quite a few fintech accelerators being based there. You'll just see a list of some of these ones here. The Fintech Innovation Lab by Accenture, for example, they've got 3 locations around the world. One is New York, one is London, and one is in Hong Kong. You'll see also Standard Chartered have also got their accelerators set up there, as well as DBS. Some of the other ones you'll hear from Science Park, and Science Park also encapsulates a lot of these acceleration and incubation activities. But aside from these kind of companies, there's hardware-focused ones like Brink. We've got So Asia, which is a social impact innovation accelerator. So it really runs a gamut. You've even got the Cage, which is a high fashion retailer. They're the biggest luxury fashion brand distributor and holder in Asia, and they also run an accelerator for fashion tech. And Infinity, of course, Infinity, the car brand, their headquarters are based in Hong Kong, and they run a global accelerator based in Hong Kong as well. They've also launched accelerator programs in a number of different countries, which feed into their main program in Hong Kong as well. So if you are looking for a bit of support to try and get you familiar with the market, I do suggest that the accelerators is a great way to go, because the quality of them are very good. So some of the co-work spaces that we're talking about, we do, at the last count, we had over about 50, 60 locations. Some of them are substantial and includes like the big players like WeWork, and also other players like the Work Project, which are, a Korean company. But because of the number of co-work spaces we're getting in Hong Kong, and because of the diversity of different types of startups there, we're starting to see co-work spaces becoming more specialized. So you'll see that one on the top right is actually very much focused on the fashion, on the maker space and fashion tech as well. We like to pride ourselves on a very pro-innovation kind of regulatory environment. So some of these new initiatives that was literally just launched in February of this year include a $6.4 billion fund in innovation. A lot of that's going into the infrastructure side. So that's going to the likes of Cyberport as well as Science Park and building up the physical infrastructure to support innovation. But there's also other kind of funding programs that's developed in collaboration with universities and other kind of groups as well. So there is a strong funding support on that. Even for creative industries is a big focus for us. We've just assigned again 127 million to develop a bunch of different kind of services to support creative startups as well. I've mentioned the reduced tax, also the new smart banking initiatives. This is it's a very simple way just to cover some actually quite substantially big ideas. It's a few words that cover really, really cutting edge kind of fintech developments that has been issued by our regulators. So under the smart banking initiative, it includes things like digital licenses. It includes giving more flesh to the actual sandbox developments that we've got that we launched last year, and a whole gamut of other types of kind of support to enable Hong Kong's banking to actually really reach the top echelons of innovation and development. And if you're in the fintech space, I really suggest you look at some of these initiatives because they are very wide and far-reaching. We've also got the Smart ID card that we're going to be launching with regards to this, leveraging this eID. All of people in Hong Kong have an ID card already. We launched a Smart ID card several years ago. This is the next iteration whereby every person has a smart e-identity that we're going to be leveraging across a bunch of different kind of public services. So at this moment in time, if you go to any of the public hospitals, you already have all your medical records and things digitized. That's going to be all linked up with your eID, and that's currently in development. That will be rolling out in about 2 years' time. So if you've got any kind of potentially health tech kind of companies that you're looking to to embed a little bit more into a population, the eID might be one way of doing it when that's ready to be deployed. I mentioned some of the new funding programs that was announced by our financial secretary in February. These are some of the other kinds of existing programs that's in place. I know George is going to talk a little bit more about slightly some of the funding details, but some of the ones I would particularly like to highlight might be under the research and development, the enterprise support scheme, the ESS, which is basically a grant that the government gives on a matching basis of up to 1.3 million per project. We call it a project because one business can compose of several projects. You still have to apply, and it's actually quite a rigorous process because we are talking about public funds where we're in spending, but the actual amount that you get in terms of support, financial support, we think is pretty substantial. And actually it's been benchmarked across a lot of different kind of cities around the world, and it is seen as one of the most generous for R&D functions. The other ones I wanted to mention is the Innovation and Technology, the VC Matching Fund, the technology, the VC, I'm trying to remember the details of the actual name, but I call it the VC Matching Fund. It's the ITVF, and basically what it is a matching on a 1-to-2 basis on qualified VCs who are investing in Hong Kong-based startups. So if you are, based here obviously, but you're looking to scale into Hong Kong, and you have a qualified VC basically investing into you, then the government can match it on a 1-to-2 basis, whereby the government puts in 1 and the VC puts in 2. Some of the other schemes we've got supports things like marketing, internship. I mean, they're all very tactical kind of programs, and it's very good if you've got a specific need that you're looking to address in your overseas expansion. We also have a host of companies here within the public side to actually support a number of different areas if you're looking to expand overseas. We've got the Hong Kong Design Centre, for example, supporting creative industries. On R&D, you'll hear from the Science Park. You've got Astray, Cyberport, all involved in supporting companies doing this. Even for proof of concept, if you're looking to validate your idea, we've got the electronical mechanical engineering department. You've obviously got Cyberport from some of the smart city technologies, and also our regulator, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which is going to be a test bed for some fintech developments as well. Obviously, we are here to support companies setting up in Hong Kong, so we call it investment support. So InvestHK is it's here to provide you with support, like if you're looking to apply for a visa, you're trying to get a bank account open, or you want to get connected to the ecosystem, we're basically here to support that. And I would just like to highlight my colleagues who are here. Shirley is based actually here in Toronto. If you've got any kind of need, please reach out to her. And just to address things quite quickly, I know I'm taking a little bit more time. We do focus on a few kind of areas. These are the areas where we're focusing. And just to jump a little bit ahead, I just want to highlight the FinTech Week. This is a week-long event. It's the world's first cross-border FinTech event, whereby the regulators are creating an event. Finovate is also hosting its event there. And then we've got a company called FinoAsia, who's hosting a 2-day Hong Kong-based event, a 1-day based in Shenzhen as well. So if you're trying to understand what the FinTech ecosystem is like within Hong Kong and also within southern China, that would be a very, very good time to do it. Of course, in addition to FinTech, we also create a week-long Start Me Up HK festival, which draws, a lot of very, very prominent speakers from around the world. We've had Elon Musk as our keynote speaker. We've had, this year we had Hyperloop. We've had, some of the biggest VCs from the Valley come in to speak as well. And we would love to invite you to attend that next year. I just go to the next slide. Could we possibly play the video? So the next Summit Festival is going to be between the 21st and 25th. We would love to welcome you and to get you connected to the ecosystem players. So last year we had 3 Hong Kong startups become unicorns. We would love to work with you to create our own unicorn club. Thank you so much. Come and speak.
So thanks, Jane, for laying down all the foundation about why Hong Kong is really the best place for innovation and technology. So I'm George from Hong Kong Science and Technology Park. It is actually the hub of a lot of innovation and technology companies in Hong Kong, started 16 years ago. I'm going to share with you a little bit more about that. But before talking about Science and Technology Park, a few more information about Hong Kong for your consideration. Jane talked about where Hong Kong is strategically situated. 5 hours. Within 5 hours, you reach half of the world's population. And if you are really following the news, last year, March, the Chinese government announced the formation of what we call Greater Bay Area. It consists of 9 cities in the Guangdong province, plus Hong Kong and Macau. So everyone knows about Shenzhen, Guangzhou, which is almost like the manufacturer of manufacturing base of the world, and Hong Kong is just right next border. But if you really look closer into this whole area, what you will find is the entire population is 66 million people, just in this one province plus Hong Kong and Macau, and we're talking about 10% of the country's GDP, which is $1,300 billion generated from this region. And if you really tap into it, Hong Kong is the city which connects the whole region globally, internationally. And it has 5 of the top 100 global universities in this part of the world. And this is #1, actually. This is the #1 ranked in the whole world. So with this, we really think if you talk about innovation and technology in China, in Asia, the corridor actually goes Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou. And the rest, you have all the manufacturing base. So this is really a one-stop shop. You can find everything you want to make your dream come true. Hong Kong, other than the R&D strength, we also have very, very good business connections, excellent place for research and collaboration. As a matter of fact, a lot of institutes have selected Hong Kong for research and development, including Karolinska Institute from Sweden, setting up a regenerative medicine lab in Hong Kong. And also with our proximity to China, and also the Loop project that Jane just talked about, and Kathy talks about, it's going to make Hong Kong really, really, together with Shenzhen, where innovation comes to industrialization. So a little bit about Hong Kong Science and Technology Park. We were established 16 years ago, solely owned and funded by the Hong Kong government. So our only mission is to nurture and promote Hong Kong's innovation and technology ecosystem. And of all this year, Jane talks about 3 unicorns. In last year, one of them actually came out from Hong Kong Science and Technology Park. It's by the name of SenseTime, an AI leader in image recognition. And actually, we are expecting the second one coming out very soon. And with Science Park, we're also the biggest incubation in town. Since the inception of our incubation program, we have graduated 525 companies, of which over 70% of them are still in business or listed. And we also help our park companies to raise money. Just in 1 year itself, in 2017, we helped the park company directly to raise over $100 million US, 772 million Hong Kong dollars, and indirectly over 5 billion Hong Kong dollars. And also for year over year is 7 times. That really shows the atmosphere, the entire environment is really ready. And to get with that, what we believe in the whole ecosystem, we play up many, many roles beyond just the infrastructure. We provide offices, we provide laboratories, just like many other science parks. But beyond that, we provide a whole range of services from investment to finding you the right people, the talent, connecting with the universities to promote the innovation culture, and more importantly, is to find you business. With our neutral position, we are able to connect with a lot of big industry players, whether it is in Hong Kong or in the region, particularly in China. And also because of our strong linkage with the government, we are able to influence a lot of policies. And as a matter of fact, Hong Kong government in its smart city pursuit that to become a smart city of the world by 2030, it has designated Hong Kong Science and Technology Park as a pilot site. So a lot of technologies and probably regulation could be relaxed. So up to now, of this 16 years of effort, Hong Kong Science Technology Park has 3 portfolios. On your leftmost, you see that's where Science Park is. We're housing today 650 plus companies, over 12,000 people working in the park. In the middle, we have a facility called Inno Center, housing 60 plus companies, 1,000 people, focusing on branding, design, marketing. And Hong Kong still has manufacturing activities. We have 3 industrial estates for 160 plus companies, more than 30,000 people work there. And one of the industrial estates is very interesting. Is on the leftmost side is the Zhangguanou. Sorry, on your rightmost. It is actually a concentration of major data centers in Asia. And we have the concentration of all the undersea cables running between Hong Kong and US as well. So that actually is the internet hub, internet exchange for the entire Asia. In Science Park, today we offer over 3 million square feet of R&D space, including laboratories, and over 260 companies are in our startup programs, incubation programs, and the rest are mainly SMEs and some big companies. And we are expanding. We continue to expand. Other than we are going to offer another 25% of space by middle of next year, and also with accommodation, we'll have an accommodation unit to house 500 people just right next to the park. And the Hong Kong Shenzhen I&D Park, which is right next to Hong Kong and Shenzhen border, will be the next major project they will be working on to really make that the center, the heart of the entire Greater Bay Area. And we are also actively promoting advanced manufacturing, and we'll have another 100,000 square meters of multi-tenant facility built up in one of our industrial estates to really recruit companies which want to have manufacturing activities, high-end, high-tech, low-volume type of advanced manufacturing activities back in Hong Kong, leveraging Hong Kong's recognition of being recognized for its trust and export control type of activities. Now, this is where Hong Kong and the what we call the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park will be. It is right next to the Shenzhen. On the upper part of the picture, that's Shenzhen, the manufacturing base. And right below is Hong Kong, a flat piece of land of 87 hectare of space, and the land will be ready by 2021, and we'll be focusing on three things. One is advanced education, innovation and technology, and creativity and culture. So this will really be it is 4 times the space of Hong Kong Science Park today, and we anticipate that a lot of innovation and technology activities are going to happen here. Just imagine this. This is a land enjoying Hong Kong's law, Hong Kong's tax, but at the same time, you can cross the border in merely a walking of 5 minutes into China. And then you enjoy the massive manufacturing capability of China. This is where it is strategically located. And we will co-develop this together with the Shenzhen government. And this piece of land it will be developed and managed 100% by a subsidiary of Hong Kong Science and Technology Park. So soon the first building, the land ready by 2021, and then the first building likely to be 2022. And what we do, Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, we focus in 5 major technology areas: electronics, materials and precision engineering, biomed, ICT, green tech, so on and so forth. But the key is the services that we provide is beyond, as I said earlier, beyond just land, just beyond just the office space. We help the companies to find the funding, whether it is from private equity or venture capital or angel investors. We connect with university and R&D institutes for technology transfer, talent, facilities. We even work with all the major big players in the industry to really match your businesses. And over years, we have been, and just last year itself, we were able to have 28 partners and successfully match over 40, 50 projects into adoption into these big companies. And of course, we influence a lot of regulation and adoption. This is what we do in a startup ecosystem. As I said, we have our own incubator, and we provide, other than just the incubation space, we actually provide grants. Okay, all the incubatees coming to our program, going through an application procedure and panel, will be either admitted into a app program, which is 18 months of program, to Tech, 36 months of program working on more tangible, more hardcore technology, into bio, a 4 years program. And during these 4 years, 18 months to 48 months, we provide not only just business matching, consulting, legal services, accounting services, use of our communal facility, laboratories, equipment. And we also have linked up with angel investment, and we ourselves is also an angel investor. We have a fund which will co-invest with the industry investors into companies before looking for seed to Series A investment. And over years, we have our track record up to now. We only have run it for 3 years, or less than 3 years, about 2 years' time. Over years, we have been able to enjoy a multiplying factor of over 10 times. So i.e., every single dollar we invest into a park company, we were able to help them to raise more than $10. And we are now in the process of expanding the fund and hoping to make it more relevant to everyone. And we also are working very closely with our China counterpart as well as global players. These are just 2 examples. Last year, we signed a MOU with the Chinese Academy of Science to really establish a green lab in Science Park, with the purpose to really be the base, the launch pad for companies with leading technologies from overseas to land into Hong Kong, to do your last mile translation, and then go and access the massive Chinese market through the network of Chinese Academy of Science. And on the right side is just a showcase of Siemens. Last year also opened up a smart city digital hub. They have tens of data scientists just sitting in Science Park, working with the Science Park companies together to ride on their IoT cloud platform. And earlier, if you look at the Jane's pitch, it talks about we have a lot of connection with different accelerator program. On your upper left-hand corner, we actually ran run our own elevator pitch event. Last year we attracted 1,000 attendees, whereby 40% of them actually come overseas. We sponsor some of the tickets, and the winner actually gets $140,000. One thing very interesting about this event is you had to pitch your idea in exactly 60 seconds when riding an elevator in Hong Kong, exactly 60 seconds from the ground floor to the 100th floor. So you have to finish your pitching, and when the elevator door closes, you have to start talking to the two investors in the elevator. When the lift door opens, time's up, you have to walk out. And about 100 teams went through this process, and we selected 10 and to compete for the grand prize. And the picture on the right is we also co-organized a Jumpstarter event together with Alibaba. You see Ma Yun there, together with our chief executive. So one of the final winner, each of the winner will be given $1 million as the winning prize, and one of them is our company. And below is a program we are also now currently running with HSBC, really a 2-year program to nurture not only the entrepreneur, but also the angel investor. So the entire investment community and the ecosystem is really flourishing in the past few years. Just allow me to spend 2 pages, and 3 pages I'm going to stop. First, Hong Kong, there are a few areas that we believe Hong Kong has very, very strong capability and advantages. One is in the biomedical technology. Not only we have a very, very well-structured and well-kept longitudinal medical database of mainly Chinese population, we also have 2 clinical trial centers which are accredited by FDA, EMA, as well as Chinese counterpart, the CFDA of the world. So this is really the place that you can do your clinical trial, file one time to all 3 clinical regulators. And we also have established the channels for biosamples to cross border. And one thing worth mentioning is actually announced last week, I think came effective just beginning of this week, is Hong Kong Exchange has just announced a new chapter to allow biotech company pre-revenue to go listed, to go IPO. This is big. And with this, about a month ago when they held a conference talking about this scheme, over 1,000 registration, and half of them are companies, half of them are investors trying to rip on that. The caveat is, of course, there are different rules. The company just needs to have a capital market cap of roughly $200 million US dollar at that range. Then you can, even if you don't have any revenue, you can go listed. Of course, there are lots of listing criteria you need to go through. I'll just skip all this. And for AI and robotics, another area of focus for us is we really see AI, robotics has to work together with the industry and the applications. So with Hong Kong being the world leading in financial services, retail, and with government's big push on smart city, opening up the data, we do believe there are a lot of opportunities just even Hong Kong itself can present. And with the China's AI plan to become a super AI powerhouse by 2030, Hong Kong actually is strategically positioned to be really the landing base for a lot of technologies to customize, to translate, and get into the China market. I'm just going to quickly flip. And this is what we want. We continue to want to ask people to come to Hong Kong, whether it's talents, whether it is institute, whether you're companies, whether you're an investor, whether you're an incubator or accelerator, we want you. We want you to come to work with us to really make Hong Kong the innovation and technology hub in that part of the world. And the area of focus, I'm just listing some of this. A lot of this already covered by Jane, but really AI, robotics, biomed, blockchain, fintech, smart city related. And as I said earlier, even in advanced manufacturing, Hong Kong is your base. All right, I'm just going to stop here. Thank you. Thank you.
You guys have a booth here as well, right? Yeah, okay. Do you have the number? It's right by the entrance. So if you have any I mean, we're out of time. So if you have any questions, they do have a booth, and they'll be there all day tomorrow to answer questions in terms of how you can engage with Hong Kong. So thank you, Kathy, Jane, and George, for your presentations. This concludes our Innovation Partners presentations for today. Thank you for joining us in Innovation Partners Theater, and we hope to see you tomorrow morning for additional presentations beginning at 9:30. Please enjoy yourself at the networking reception, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.